a legend of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzillavangelists! Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast. Produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent. Featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki.
And we're back. I just shouted into my microphone. It's gonna sound hectic. Wow, it feels like just yesterday we were recording the first half of this show.
And it was. No, just kidding. For various reasons. It's now about 4 months later, perhaps a little bit more. So, just for fun.
Let's all say one thing that is big that's happened in our life since then.
As well as when the last time you watched an episode was.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go first.
All right.
I went to Comic-Con. Woo!
Wow.
And that was this past weekend, and it was really fun, and I recommend it. And I only was in the convention hall for 2 minutes, and I spent about $100, which I did not anticipate.
Did you get any Monarch merch? Any monster merch?
No Monarch merch. I don't even know what I bought. I bought comics I'd never heard of, and I might never read. But I own them. But now I own them, and that's all that
must have been one great sales pitch.
That's all that matters. And I bought art that I don't know if I need or want, but now I have that too.
Collectibles.
So that was my experience of Comic-Con. And I met Jason Derulo. So a great weekend all around.
Wow. I don't want to follow
Why
that.
Jason Derulo of all
because
people?
He was the guest at the fandom party.
Okay.
Or the performer. And then I watched the 5 episodes in between Comic-Con and now. So Ryan, I also rushed the end bit. I was very confused in the first 2 episodes. I had no idea what was going on. So I
You
have some
didn't watch
questions.
that previously on Monarch clip?
It went so fast, and it was like midnight after a red eye I had taken. So
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, so not a lot of it was taking.
And we'll come around to this, but I don't blame you for being confused in that first one back. Episode 6 is something else.
Yeah.
But yes, as
Who's
Joanna
next?
sort of implied, I'm in the middle of it, I'll go.
He's going great.
As Joanna sort of implied, I had to watch all of these today because I too was on a con trip over the long weekend, and I planned to watch them whenever I had free time, while my wife was driving and all that, but my downloads didn't have any audio, so instead I had to watch all 5 of them. The last one finishing less than an hour ago. So at least it's extremely fresh. It's the only thing I can think about right now.
Ryan, that's the way I'm always rolling here. That's the way to go. Keep it most fresh. Catch those reactions right as
And
they
I got
come
to
up.
meet Ron Perlman at the con, and I said, I feel like you have to have the most iconic voice of all time. And he replied, I feel like I have to as well.
Wait, which
What a
con were
king.
you at?
Galaxy Con.
Oh, there were multiple cons. Okay, see, I'm
There
not
are
as well versed
many
in
cons.
the converse yet, so it was big for me to even make it to this one.
Where's GalaxyCon?
They have it in a few different places. I went to the one down in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's where I was. If you're down there, go to the Roast Grill. Best chili dogs on the planet.
Ooh, best chili dogs and stuff. Now, Prad, were you at a con this weekend? Because if not, we'll be disappointed. We'll have to kick you off the pod.
I feel like I didn't get the invite, and I'm pretty hurt about it. I was not at a con this weekend. I can't even resemble something close to a con. But yeah, I've had a very eventful time since we last recorded. We moved from New York to Seattle, so that'll be my one thing. And yeah, I'm on the polar opposite spectrum of you guys in terms of last episode watched time. I think it was January for me was the last time I watched an episode. So I've been really relying on some YouTube recap videos to refresh my memory.
Prad can't wait to hear us talk and remember what the show was all about.
I'll be doing a lot of listening today.
It kind of works, though, because, not to get into spoilers yet, but we have characters who are coming from very different time periods, have very different senses of time. So that's really why we did this. It was all on theme.
All planned.
It's on theme. Yep.
Welcome back to Godzillavangelists. I'm Ryan. I'm here with Joanna, not Sam today, but he will be here for our 2 finale episodes. And today we do have...
crazy.
Yeah, it is
That's
crazy.
happening.
We'll talk more about that at the end. But we do have returning guests, and quite possibly the last of our guests ever, Prad.
Yay,
What
I'm back.
honor.
I didn't know I was the last guest. Yeah, oh my God.
The last guest of all time.
You're shutting down guests?
He wished he had watched. Well, we've seen all the movies now, but they'll keep making them.
The last 2 episodes are just our finale, so it's just going to be us. Yes, today we're finishing our discussion of the Monarch Legacy of Monsters TV series, which
is that the theme? Something like that, right?
It's like very electronic-y, beepy boopy. It's not a very memorable theme.
We're all like doing different. I think I'm doing something from a horror movie. Do 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 do. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the Twilight Zone theme.
Oh, it's Twilight Zone.
Well, I tried.
Well, since the last time we talked about it, it's been renewed for a 2nd season, so there will be more eventually. Yep.
Wow.
But for now, we're talking about episodes 6 through 10 of the 1st season. This is your first and last spoiler warning if you haven't caught the show yet. What are you doing? Go see it.
Yeah, Prad's been watching it for a year now, basically. So everyone else is behind.
My most watched show.
My most watched show.
Godzilla's been living in your mind rent-free.
Are we doing episode by episode? Because I don't know that I can distinguish between them.
No, we didn't last time, and we're not this time.
Okay, good.
Future Ryan here. I listened to the previous episode, and it turns out we did do it like that last time. So you don't need to email us about that. I'll take the L now. Thanks. As with last time, because this is such a long series and it came out fairly recently, I kept the synopsis very succinct, but I do have one for you guys.
Great.
So please, sound effects at the ready.
Yes.
Okay. Shaw breaks out of captivity and helps our young heroes get to Algeria. There, they find Hiroshi, briefly, before Godzilla emerges and wrecks the Monarch copter tracking them. Shaw follows the monster and leaves the youths behind. I didn't reintroduce any of the characters, but No,
that's all good, Ryan. I didn't do sound effects because I'm just paying attention, making sure I'm following exactly the locations.
Write this down.
Yeah, I'm very
honestly,
focused.
keep going. This is really helpful for me.
Yeah.
That's what it's here for. In the fallout, Kate and Kentaro discover May has been lying. She was born Cora and worked for Megacorp AET until she discovered their disturbing experiments. Their disturbing, very vaguely shown experiments.
She thinks.
Yeah, something with monkeys, though.
Yeah,
apes,
something
right?
with monkeys wearing a helmet.
We don't like that.
Sad, but not as sad as the one in Guardians of the Galaxy, because that was a real tearjerker. I recommend it.
She created a virus to sabotage the company, but they figured out it was her and tracked her for the rest of her life up to this point.
Ryan, you trailing off in the
I didn't know how to Didn't know how to describe it.
That's how I felt watching the episode. I was like, okay.
Beginning to realize his mistakes, Tim helps Kate and Kentaro reconnect with May and resolves her debt to AET, which rebrands as Apex. Dun dun dun.
We've seen it before.
Well, the four of them find Shaw in Kazakhstan at the site where Keiko disappeared. He explains that he intends to seal as many rifts to Hollow Earth as possible, allegedly to help Godzilla contain threats. Tying into that, gradually these flashbacks have revealed how Shaw fell in love with Keiko and was preoccupied with reclaiming her and her legacy once she vanished. His youth is also explained by a 1962 trip to Hollow Earth, where he was trapped for what felt like a week, but only emerged 20 years later. While blowing up the Kazakh site, Kentaro is injured, and Shaw, Kate, and May are sucked into the rift. Down there in Hollow Earth, Shaw and May reunite, as do Kate and Keiko, who hasn't aged a day. Eventually, everyone reconnects, causing Keiko to despair at her missed lifetime. The four work together to try and create an opportunity to return home using Shaw's old ship. Meanwhile, Kentaro, Tim, and a repentant Hiroshi try to find a way to help their lost friends and family. Eventually, the group in Hollow Earth is able to start their exit, but they're attacked by an ion dragon. Godzilla shows up to defeat the beast, but only after some minor damage is done to the ship. Shaw leaves the ship to repair it and is lost to the void.
Sad.
Everyone emotionally reunites on the Earth's surface, but 2 years have passed and Apex is somehow involved in the rescue plan. Everyone is forced to flee inside this building as King Kong approaches.
My boy!
Cliffhanger!
Yeah, he looked sick, too, in a good way.
Yeah, give me a King Kong roar. We need at least one sound effect. So.
He really nailed his cameo for the season.
He was like, I don't know what he was doing, but he really went for it. He did
Solid
nail
chest
it.
bump.
Yeah, he
Fucking
did.
crushed it. He was looking old too, a little haggard, which is how we prefer him to look. You know,
He's been through some
Silver
things.
Yes, this is pissed off Kong.
So I have some questions, and thank you, Ryan, because that was very informative and helpful and to the point for all of the convoluted things that happened in many places they traveled in the show. Why did they leave Shaw in the beginning?
He was like, hey, I actually don't care that much about your dad now that I know he's alive, so I'm going to go follow Godzilla. And they were like, well, we don't care about Godzilla. We're going to look for Dad. And that's why.
Right. And May was like, why am I here?
Yeah, let me go.
But then eventually they were like, we need to find Shaw because... Why did they realize they needed to find him? What happened at the airport?
Well, they only started going after Shaw again when Monarch was like, we need to go after him or he's gonna like make these portals open up and all the monsters come out.
That's what I was confused. I was like, is he now a bad guy or is he still good or nobody knows? And it was confusing is what I'll say. I'll say episode 6 and 7, a little confusing and unclear. We all arrived together at the same spot.
I have notes from my January 5th viewing of this show saying, why does Vertigo care about Shaw so much? Godzilla's just walking around right now. So it was like she's very Shaw focused and there's like real threats happening in the moment.
Which one is she?
Vertigo's the head of the
Monarch. At least in this show.
Okay.
The curly-haired lady.
And then why is the other woman who's Tim's partner with Shaw? She seems like she very much
the French woman
supports his cause. Yeah.
In a recap video that I watched today, she said that her sister got hurt in a nuclear accident, like died. So she has since held resentment for Monarch, which I don't think we ever saw in the show. But
No.
apparently there's some backstory there.
Good to know. I'm glad you watched that video. Now I know.
Yeah.
I was curious. I was like, why is she so...
From a screenwriting perspective, it feels like they had an idea of how they wanted the first part of the show to go and the second part. And they didn't know how to smoothly transition.
That's what I thought, because I was like, I have vague memories of the Alaska scene and it being pretty epic and me being like kind of into it by the end of the last time we watched. And I was like kind of excited to restart watching. And then I was like, I don't know if I'm tired or if it's just not working.
It's kind of a hard reset because in the first half, it's like it spins up into this globe-trotting adventure where they're with Shaw and, you know, going from place to place, learning more about their dad. And then they sort of just find him, and then that's over. And they have to figure out, like, okay, well, now what's going to happen?
But they find him and they don't even talk to him, right? He just kind of waves from far away and then, like, disappears. And then they're like, well, like, very odd.
They don't have an opportunity. I mean, that's fine to have it like, oh, we were so close yet so far. It's just like super awkward because all these people's allegiances and like goals change in episode 6, and it's super confusing because you're like, wait, who wants what now? Who is against who and why?
That's helpful because I just kept being like, why did they leave Shaw? And when they got back to him, I'm like, okay, so they only did for one episode. I feel like the show too, it's just, yes, it totally was like, they needed filler. Like they like must have been like, hey, you're going to get paid out for 10 episodes. But they were like, how do we fill that space? Because it felt so overwritten at parts. Like the flashback of Shaw and Keiko was like just so long for a like unrequited love on his end, you know? Like I thought they were setting them up to maybe be actual partners for a minute, but they kind of had like a 30-minute scene and then they're not even, I don't know.
At the dance.
Like I get it, it was sweet, but yeah, the dance.
Yeah. That's like half the episode. It's just them at a dance.
I was like, I thought they were going to get together. I thought maybe I forgot about the other guy and he's actually who she ends up with. And then I was like, oh no, wait, that's not it? Oh, okay.
I actually liked it, but kind of in a vacuum, because I know what you mean. Like in the flow of the show as a whole, it kind of has the same problems that the first half did, where like all the individual segments, or at least almost all of them, are competent at worst, great at best. But like the flow of them together is like really bumpy, and you kind of always not sure what you should be expecting next, but not in the fun, like, ooh, I'm being surprised way, but like the just kind of being a little bit put off way.
Yes, I think like I liked generally overall the older scenes or those characters more. Like when she showed up in the last episode, I feel like she had a very strong performance in that last episode, Keiko, and was great. But I feel like, yeah, I liked those sections, but I was like, they're kind of putting a full stop in the forward motion of what's going on in the show.
How did you guys feel about the May storyline? Because I felt like what you're describing about like overwriting and too much time, like that was me with the May storyline. I was like, I don't care that much about this.
I agree. And I wrote some lines that I also think that I forgot exactly how old they were supposed to be when I came back into watching it. And I think they're supposed to be more like 30-ish, right? But in my head,
about 30.
In my head, I thought they were like playing hot teens, like in Riverdale. And I was like, how have these hot teens had so many jobs? And then some of her lines, I wrote them down. She's like, when she was explaining her background to them, she's like, I did some bad things. And then at one point she goes, I have a lot of money. And then before she gets kidnapped, she has this line that's like, I've never been kidnapped before, so how does this work? It was like so casual and snarky. Just so silly. Yeah, so I felt too proud that it was just dramatic and
it was
odd.
a shame because in the first half I really liked the Kentaro focused episode. I thought that was one of the strongest.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, like another character deep dive. I'm in for it. But it was not nearly as strong. Like I said in the synopsis, it was actually very unclear what AET was doing that was so bad. And without knowing that, come on, tug on our heartstrings a little bit, or make it interesting. Show us how May discovered the problem.
Right, or just say it like, okay, so they're going to try to control Godzilla. I don't know, just say one. Yeah, that poor, not that poor woman, but that woman playing the evil boss too. Just all her lines were like, well, we'll see when we see, won't we? Just like, make her a real person, not just this villain in this suit.
I feel like they were trying to get to that end point of like, oh, you have this program and they're going to set up on Skull Island. Like, that was the goal, and they had to figure out some way to weave it in. And they just used the May storyline and like just made it happen. Yeah.
That could make sense. I kind of felt like they almost like loved her performance too much, because I thought they were kept like giving her like scenes when they would have been more useful to like give May moments. Like I said, like discovering like what was going on, or like showing more of her relationship with her sister and her mom. But instead we get like so many minutes of her arguing with this dastardly tech CEO, like, you didn't live up to your promise, and who fucking cares?
Yeah,
at the end of the
I
day?
choosed you with 2 bottles of wine. It just is like, what? Yeah, that was a very silly. Okay, so I think we solved it at least. They had episodes 1, 2 through 5, and 9 and 10, and we're a little like, maybe they were affected by the writer's strike. You know, sometimes that happens. I don't show through some shows, of course.
Yeah, definitely an awkward pivot. At first, a very confusing episode, and then arguably the weakest episode of the entire season. But after that, we get back to some of the better stuff in 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, and that's when they get to the site, right? Of where were they?
Kazakhstan.
Okay, they were. I just okay, great. Couldn't remember at that point. Wait, can I just read really quick 3 of my notes that I wrote in a row?
Please.
Absolutely.
That are getting us to this point. I forgot Shaw was not the grandpa. Okay, I was very obsessed with Shaw at this point in my notes. There's so much going on in this show, none of it makes any sense. What is Shaw doing? Do we not like Shaw? What happened? Why did that one chick join him? Where is Shaw? All my questions are just like
Shaw.
obsessed.
I mean, he is the best part of the show.
Yeah, he's like really is. You know who I kind of started to like a lot too? Tim. I was like, okay, this actor, I feel like he was the only, everyone else felt so serious. And I feel like Tim was the only one who seemed a little more a real human.
He had some lightness. And you know what I discovered? The guy who plays him engaged to Sarah Bareilles, so good for him.
What? Oh my god, he must be, what a sweet. Can you guys hear my cat like dying in the background?
I did heard cat yelling for a second.
He's pissed. I'm just, let me, Striker! All right.
I think we had this exact discussion last time about we liked that actor, we thought he was funny, and then he's engaged to Sarah Bareilles. I'm pretty sure all 3 of those happened. We can go back to the tape.
I'll go back and listen tomorrow. And I'll message you guys if we talk about the same things.
Good for him. What a guy.
Good for that guy.
Good for that guy. Him and Shaw, the best parts. And Keiko, I think. Those 3. And I liked Randa. Randa really seemed like he was of the time. Like, I don't think he could exist in... I'm like, I don't know who that actor plays in modern day, but he really seemed just so goofy and of the past.
The only other thing I've seen him in was the Electric Mayhem show that was on last year, which was great, by the way. Muppet fans, check it out.
Check it out. Anders Holm.
Yes, Anders Holm.
Wait, what's that comedy show that they were in, the three of them?
Oh, he was in Workaholics.
Workaholics.
Was he?
I feel like that's a
okay.
well-known show. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. Well, good for him, too. Good for everybody
Good for everybody. We're so
in
happy.
the show.
Kurt Russell's a star. You can just tell he's a star. He just carries these scenes. And he's talking about weird monster jargon and stuff and whatever, but he just pulls it all off.
He really does. I didn't mind Wyatt either in these last few episodes. I really started to like young Shaw.
Yeah, he picked it up. I think he did.
Yeah, he kind of settled in. His blue eyes were piercing through, and he was settling into his role. Okay, you go. Yeah.
Just to briefly touch on Tim. He's not written very well at all because I don't understand his pivot that much. Why is he suddenly not a corporate bootlicker and is a nice guy now? But he's just you can't help but like him. He keeps getting blown up, thrown out of helicopters, insulted by people, and he always gets back on his feet and finds a path forward. So how can you not?
He just seems like he's trying his darndest. And his name is Joe Tippett, which seems fitting for him. If you look on his IMDb page, he's wearing a hat that makes him look like he would be Sarah Bareilles' fiance. The hat specifically.
I'll have to look at it after.
If you see it,
I gotta look now.
If you see it, you'll understand.
Because that is such a bizarre description.
I think, Joe, you sent out the picture last time.
And the beard as well.
I said all this last time. How embarrassing is that?
We went down a real Joe Tippett tunnel last time. And we're doing it again. And I love it.
Yeah, he's in Waitress the Musical because of course he is. Sarah got him that part. Mayor of Easttown.
Mayor of Easttown.
This is a Joe Tippett fan pod now. Future Ryan again. We did talk about Joe Tippett's swanky IMDb picture, but not that he was engaged to Sarah Bareilles. Again, good for him.
You know who we didn't see much of in the show? Godzilla.
Ooh. Yeah.
I was going to ask Ryan how he felt about that, because it was interesting that for 5 episodes they talked about him a lot, but the show really was more about just interpersonal family drama, which I'm normally about, but I was getting a little okay, where's the they kept saying there's a global emergency, but it didn't feel like it because they didn't show any of it besides at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm trying not to repeat myself, especially not to the level that we apparently are with Joe Tippett. But I don't know. I have to say the same thing as last time, which is that is a big disappointment. That I know this is supposed to be the character focused balance to Godzilla X Kong, but still it's hardly about the monsters. I think that apart from the last episode, we got 3 brief monster scenes. Godzilla popping out of the water in Japan in the 50s, Godzilla popping out of the dirt in Algeria in the present, and the Frostvark popping out of the snow just before they blow up that first rift in Antarctica or wherever that is. Yeah,
he wasn't really on the call sheet that much. They couldn't afford him.
We did get one fun battle with him at the end, fighting the Ion Dragon.
Even that felt short, didn't it?
It was
and it felt
short,
like there was no real dramatic build to it. Like, I feel like at least sometimes, there's a, like, when Kong is involved with it, like, there's a build and there's a fight that you can anticipate. And when they're just kind of like, oh, hey, we should probably throw this guy in who we keep talking about.
Apple TV's got to save that budget.
They really do. Like, Ryan, this is how I know I've changed since being on the podcast, is that now I'm like, but where was the monster? Before, I never would have said that in my life. I'd be
I'm so happy for that.
Keep him off screen.
Why spend money on the big blinky lights room when we could have had more Godzilla?
Yeah, it just feels like a cop-out, kind of. But
yeah,
I wasn't in the writer's room.
I will swing things back positive. The best part of this last half was the final episode, I think, which actually had 2 emotional moments that got me a little misty. Were really well done.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I'm talking all this flack. I cried twice in the last episode. I just stopped crying 2 minutes before we recorded this.
No.
So, despite, those middle episodes being a little, I went, damn it, as I started crying. I went, damn it, they still landed it for me.
They brought it home.
They did.
Because she was, I think because they did maybe it's because they did develop Keiko and Shaw. So then when they have that scene and she's figuring out what year it is, it's really sad.
That's why I said I did like the lead up they were doing with their characters, even though individually some of those scenes didn't, feel like they flowed right in the episode. It made me realize how much, A, he cared about her, and B, he felt like he had lost his lifetime. Like, he felt like he was supposed to be with her, but instead it didn't work out that way, and now he's an old man. It, all of that made that moment hit harder than it would have with, briefer moments between them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What were you going to say, Prad, too?
I was going to ask if you were surprised when Keiko reemerged in that other world and saved Kate's character. Were you guys like, oh yeah, of course? Or was it like, oh wow, she's back? Or she's still here?
I didn't expect her to be there. Did you, Ryan?
I accidentally spoiled it for myself, so I can't give you a fair answer here. I was trying to confirm a detail that I thought I missed, and then I accidentally saw
that she was in that. Yeah.
Finds Keiko in the Hollow Earth, and I was like, whoops.
What about you?
I was surprised, but I was thinking I probably shouldn't have been. I probably should have seen that coming of that's a major character. We didn't actually see her die. She should be there, but it was a real moment for me. I was like, oh wow, the show word can sense that I cared that she was there, and it was a cool moment. They shot it well. Yeah, I was because I feel like Keiko was just easy to root for. You're on her side.
Yeah, I was excited to see her there. I think
it
I was
a nice moment, even though I knew it was coming.
I think I was a little surprised when she was of course, when she wasn't who are you? To Kate, really, she was just yeah. But I get that in her mind, it was someone sent to save her. Yeah.
Although she didn't seem surprised it was another Asian woman. So when you think about it hard, it's a little strange. But
for that time and age.
Whatever. I'll forgive it. Yeah.
Well, you know what else I was shocked by when he went down on the team to go get her in Middle Earth? I was shocked to see a woman on the boat pod thing.
I was too.
I was there's literally only men in this whole shot. There are 100 people in this shot, and it is all male lieutenants. But good for this chick. She's going down there to Middle Hollow Earth.
Let's get a sideshow about her. I want to hear her backstory.
She gets the
That'd be great. A Hidden Figures style biopic of how she rose above the discrimination. I mean, one of the first cosmonauts in the Soviet Union was a woman, but they had different priorities. So I don't know. I guess it's like this is an alternate past where these things are changing quicker. It was interesting.
No, again, happy to see it, but I was like, she seems out of place in the fact that they only cast men for the rest of the whole shot. Did you guys care about Kate and Kintaro's dad?
I mean, not in the sense that I'm like, oh, is he going to be okay? But I cared about other people's relationships with him. Like, it still hit me how let down Kintaro was by him at the start of that episode. That was the other, like, really emotional moment when he was like, this is how deeply you failed me, and now Kate is dead, or we think she's dead. And his dad starts sobbing, and I'm like, okay, this hits. Or same deal in, like, the flashback scene to 1982 when he's there to, like, explain to Shaw what happened in the 20 years he was gone. So, like, other people's relationships with him worked for me, even if I didn't, like, care about him particularly as a character, you know?
Yeah.
I thought he was mostly like a plot intrigue, like, person. You know, I was like, what's he up to? What's he doing? What's he thinking? Like, what's going on with the monsters? And how does he, like, what's his thought process was what I was thinking about. His, like, familial relationships, I was a little bit like, I don't know. I felt like they were trying to, like, excuse a lot of his stuff, that I was just like, okay, well, he's still kind of a shitty dad and, like, a shitty husband.
That's how I felt. Like, they didn't explain it. They didn't give him that much. But then his moment at the end, my second moment crying was when he was like, Mama, and, like, when she saw him. But a part of it is obviously I was, like, very emotionally attached to her. But I feel like the two of them together in that moment, like, was the one of the few times in the show where they let his character not just be, like, a little more flat of kind of being this bad guy, but the scientist kind of, like, they let him, like, settle into something. Yeah, because before that, like, whenever they'd kind of get to him, I'd be like, okay, let's, move it along.
Well, I do want us not to forget that in the first half of the episodes, they talk about nice memories with him. They don't do that at all in the second half, but that is there.
Okay, I forgot. You're right. I did forget that when I watched that back in March, much as I forgot about good old Jim Tippett or whatever his name is. Okay, well, that probably helps then, having that context.
Yeah, but I do think eventually, like I said, that moment, they do really nail him to the cross, where Kintaro is like, here is how deeply you fucked up.
Yeah.
So eventually they do, like, take him to task, but you're right. It seems like they're, to an extent, people are really ready to forgive him.
Yeah. He's like a plot device, yeah.
Yeah.
You know who I do want to give an award to, though? Is Kintaro's mom, who was the nurse for both when she is the nurse, and then that scene where she says, when you find where you're going, make sure to tell your son because he doesn't deserve to not have you in his life. And she's saying that as she gives her wedding ring back. It was, like, so subtle, but I feel like even in her quick moments in the nurse section, she really won you over. And then as, like, that was honestly one of my favorite parts, I think, when they kind of, like, transition to her as the mom and you see that take place. I was like, wow, this is cinema. Look at them go. Look at them doing this. One
of my notes says Kintaro's mom for MVP. I don't remember exactly why
Literally.
I wrote that, or where it was coming from, but I agree with it.
She was the best.
I'll give you 3 for 3. She's just a tertiary character, not that important to the plot, but they really nailed her, like, because those scenes not only, like, give her more depth and help you understand like the family relationship with Hiroshi, but they also give more context to her early scenes. Like why is this lady so nice and forgiving? And it's just like she's always been that way. She just wants to help people.
And I remember in the beginning thinking she was like kind of a pushover, she seemed like, but then I guess then coming back at the end to her giving the ring away while saying that, like you see that she's actually not. She's quite strong just in her own way.
It's interesting. Something I was thinking about this whole show is how, like, pre-golden age of TV, this would have been, like, fantastic. It would have stood out as, like, a really good show. But now, we've had this decade of really good TV, and now it's just sort of, like, hitting par, like, straight down the middle. Nothing is that wrong about it. Except for episode 6.
Maybe a little 7 too.
But it's just it does not consistently enough bring those great moments home. We had a couple of them in that last episode, but that doesn't
I feel like it
doesn't help me sell people on the rest of the show.
I feel like it's almost a very classic trap in Godzilla stuff of there's just always maybe 2 to 3 too many characters. And so the stories go a little like this because they're trying to weave this big web, but then as a result, very few people actually have like a grounded story that you care about. Some people are more just kind of, some characters are a little flat.
I don't even think that's as true as it usually is, because almost everyone gets a lot of character moments. But I see what you mean, because it's so, they're throwing so much shit at the screen, and the flow of it is not that great that like it just goes one ear out the other. Like you can't you're not like recalling these character moments.
Or it's like all they were building, and then the world that a lot of the actors or directors, etc., we're like having them live in, of this like very self-serious world, which is like not really the world that Kurt Russell was living in. And I feel like that's like a part of his star quality, is that he can be doing both things. But I feel like then that too adds to this kind of flatness sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Character focus doesn't have to mean dire,
Right.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It could have been like 15% funnier. And like, I think that would have made the show a lot better. Just because it's like it's like, I get it. They want to create like a serious universe around like the monsters, but it's still like a monster show. Like it doesn't have to be like dire, like you said,
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of why I think all the 3 youngest kind of felt like they were like cast of Riverdale to me. They were like so serious. But the cast of Riverdale is serious because they're like, there's a monster in the woods murdering the children in the town. Let's meet at the diner for a milkshake. So they can be serious because the world is kooky. So when you combine them together, it still works. But if the world is serious...
Does that happen in Riverdale? Do they have monsters in that show?
Ryan! Everything happens in Riverdale. But the best part about... Now this is a Riverdale podcast just for a moment. The best part about Riverdale is that they got to the end of high school for the teens. And at that point, the actors were like 27, 28, because the show had been going for forever. And instead of them figuring out something, doing some... episodes where they're in college, etc. They graduated high school, they ended the season. The next season, they just opened it with a thing, 7 years later. And they just said, fuck it, we're no longer pretending these are children. They are now adults. They are getting married and divorced. It's such a good show. Anyways. But that's Riverdale, right? It's kooky, so they can be serious, and they have to be to try to solve the mystery.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I felt like they were so close to realizing it, too, because I liked Shaw's scene where he's telling Kate, like, it's not about the data. Like, the data doesn't matter. It's about belief. Like, it's coming within an inch of saying, like, clap if you believe in Godzillas. Clap, I do believe. And that's the essence of it. It's far more a fantasy concept than like a hard science fiction one. And I get that they want it to be character focused, that they want you to take it more seriously. It's supposed to be a counterbalance. But yeah, you don't have to take everything so dead seriously.
I
There could be
know.
a little more humor.
I wish I could even, I'm thinking back now, the long history of us watching these, like some of my favorite films were the like the 60s ones where they're like on an island and the soundtrack is like kind of like Surfer USA vibes. So they're just like, I don't know. That's some of the best stuff of this, but it's okay. They tried. I do think Middle Earth looked cool as fuck too. I want to give a shout out. When does she not? But it looked. I thought it was very cool. That it just looked more like Pacific Northwesty than I've seen them show it before.
Shout out.
The shout out Seattle, but with the lighting, it made me be like, should I move to Seattle?
I think so. This is a Seattle podcast.
Every time we go to Hollow Earth, we see some fun new thing, and I love it.
I think it's one of my favorite places in cinema. Maybe because I just like nature, but it always seems pretty nice down there.
Well, I have a monster. Sorry, I have a monster universe question. Why does this middle, or like Hollow Earth, whatever, look so different than like the King Kong, where it's like all mountains and like kind of like open nature? You know, like are they just in a different part of it, or are they in different middle Hollow Earths?
That's what I would assume. You know, it's like there's like a whole other planet inside a planet. So we're usually seeing like the King Kong jungly area. But sometimes we're in like the lightning tree forest or the like volcano pits that were in Godzilla X Kong, where Scar King was like doing his thing.
I forgot about those. I love that question because I do. Who's got the map of this place? Yeah. Where are we?
It was very convenient that Shaw's like little ship was within walking distance of where they ended up.
I also don't understand why they had to plug it into the other one, because it seemed pretty rickety.
I didn't either, but I didn't care.
I think they had a sense of urgency because of the time thing. Like they couldn't keep them down there for like a month to figure it out, because then you just totally lose the plot back in real Earth.
Right. Okay. I was kind of like, whatever, 50s science, let him go for it.
Yeah.
I was very confused, though, what Apex had to do with it, because it seemed like they got back pretty much on their own. But I guess Apex had to be involved to set up.
I was also lost on that, but I think looking at like wiki information and trying to recall, remember how they kept dragging it around like forever?
Dragging what?
The machine, like they had it on like logs and they were walking around. I think they were following a trail, like people on the surface were like signaling to them, like they had to be in a certain place.
Oh, got it.
And I think that's what the people on the surface were doing.
Got it.
But somebody send a comment if I'm very wrong, which I might be.
Yeah, I'm looking on Reddit now. I'm trying to find the answer, but I haven't found it yet. I'll let you know. Do you know what the budget is? That's also what I'm checking Reddit for, but nobody seems to know.
Not off the top of my head. Let's see if the Wikipedia page says.
It says 15 to 30 million per episode on Reddit. So.
Jesus Christ.
God damn.
That sounds... So I think that's going to be on the lower end of that, because I know that Severance is considered the most expensive show ever for Apple TV, and that's 20 million an episode.
Well, wait, why is Severance so expensive? It's just set in an office.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Actor salary.
Ben Stiller just going crazy. Yeah, there's that. But it's like Adam Scott, you know?
Yeah.
Not like Leo.
What?
No, I hate that in Scott.
Wait, that's crazy.
Anyway.
And you know what? And that amount of money still wasn't enough to get Kurt Russell to do a second season.
Oh, he's not. Well, because he died. Yeah, they killed him.
he's dead. I don't know. Maybe they'll squeeze a cameo out of him, but he isn't going to be in every episode like this.
Well, that's a bummer. I'm sad though because I didn't. Were you guys sad when he died? I hope he's not dead.
I was like, unless we see him die, I'm not buying it. But yeah, I'll look at the cast for season 2, and I guess that's a better indication.
I wonder too if season 2, now that they've kind of gotten all of this, we need to set up the history and spend so much time going back and forth. I wonder if the pacing, I feel like 2 things, they kind of have established things, and also our boy King Kong in the mix. I feel like maybe they'll shake it up a bit, have some good forward momentum.
Maybe next season is Kong focused. But say that question again, Prad, because I think that's a good conversation.
Yeah, sorry. I was asking if you think it earned a second season. Like, you're Tim Cook, the producers come to you and say, we want to do another. What are you saying?
I say probably not.
Yeah, honestly, I was surprised that it did well enough to get a second season. I'm not mad. It's not like they fucked up super bad. I had an okay time with this. But
Ryan, the whole time this episode and the last, you're always like, it's not that it's like bad. It's just like it's not good, but it's not like they failed,
It's the definition of good, not great. That is this is the picture of the show in the dictionary.
Yeah, it's like I'm just looking. It's like 86% on Tomatoes, like 87% of Google users liked it. Like, it's like well reviewed, I guess. But I know what you mean, which makes me wonder, like, who is it for? Because if like kind of like hardcore monster people like aren't into it because there's not enough monsters. But I'd have a hard time pitching a friend who's like not into the monster world at all to like watch Monarch. You know what I mean? So like, who's it for?
Yeah, it feels kind of like they wanted like college age Stranger Things. But
it's not fun. Like, Stranger Things is fun.
But not fun.
And Stranger Things had like silly stuff.
It feels like they got the directive, like the next Godzilla movie is going to be just like the goofiest, dumbest shit ever. You have to be like, you have to serious it up in here.
And so
or maybe they wanted to do it this way, but I'm going to give them some credit and say like there was some like studio mandate that you have to like, you can't get too wacky because we're getting really wacky over here.
It's also like Apple TV makes the morning show. Like, that shit is wacky. That stuff is being written like Reese Witherspoon's in space. She's everywhere. So I know they could do it. I know they have it in them at that studio. Well, maybe maybe they'll hear us. They'll give us more Tim, more silly, or maybe not.
More Colonel Shaw. He's not dead. Bring him back. I don't care if Kurt Russell wants $50 million an episode. You give it to him.
You give it to him. God damn it. He's keeping this show going. Yeah, I feel like after a lot of movies too, we used to ask like, who would you recommend this to? And I feel similarly proud that like, unless it's like, an uncle of mine who knows Godzilla stuff, I don't think general public non-monster friends that I'd be like, oh, you gotta, check out this 10-episode show.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? We've had this conversation a few times. It reminds me of 1950s science fiction movies where they like actually cared about the science, which they don't do a lot in this, but like they make you want they make it a lot about like figuring out stuff and like solving these like scientific problems. So I would recommend this to the small niche of people who like 1950s science fiction movies.
I don't know any of them.
That's my recommendation.
Whoever's really into gamma radiation, because that's all I remember from the science of it. I just keep saying gamma radiation.
We're really into the science. Well, we did it. We watched it.
We did it. I did it. We did it. Good job, everybody.
I put together a list of top TV shows every year, and in 2023, I just went back and looked today. I ranked Monarch as my 9th best TV show of the year.
What?
Which feels right.
That feels about right.
It's not terrible. Like it's like, certainly watchable.
What was below it? Wait, give us the full read of the list, because I got to know where things stood.
Do you want to know what's below it or above it? Or both?
Just give a quick rundown.
Okay.
Now this is
Prad's
TV show list podcast.
I know. I'll do this super quickly.
He starts a YouTube channel.
These are also watched, but didn't even make it onto the honorable mention. Is Ted Lasso season 3, Only Murders in the Building season 3, Sex Education season 4, and then the rest. Oh, The Curse. Did not like The Curse. Honorable mention was Shrinking season 1, and then this is the top 10.
Okay.
Number 10, Atlanta season 4, Monarch, Barry season 4, This Fool, which is a really funny show on Hulu actually. Last of Us season 1, Dave season 3, Succession season 4, Jury Duty, Beef, The Bear season 2.
Wow. Okay. See, I feel like The Last of Us and Monarch being so close together on the list is wild to me. But I get that there are only so many TV shows that come out in a year that are watched. But it's those are different in the quality.
And I watch 16 TV shows. Yeah, it's not probably more than the average American.
I know.
Right. Also, not to roast you too hard, Joanna, but you're kind of famous for not having a great memory. And I think watching this in 2 parts really hurt your overall take
I am
of the
famous for not
series.
having a great memory.
I was actually going to ask you guys that because you really went hard on 6 and 7, which I don't necessarily remember them fondly, but I do wonder if it was you just didn't remember 1 through 5, and you just jumped into 6 of what is happening in this show.
I said I was going to come in hot on the show. Yeah, that's probably it. And I'd say, maybe I'd rewatch it and give it another chance, but I don't think I'm going to do that. But
No.
maybe when season 2 comes out, I'll watch them all together.
No,
I just watched somebody's fan recap video. We know you're not going to watch 10 hours of this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch the 10
That's not a good
hours
use
of
of
this.
time.
Okay, I'll rewatch it, fan. You're right. I'm this dad kind of sucks. They don't really do all my notes are in episode 4, they did actually cover it a tiny bit. I'm where's Pedro Pascal? Get him in here.
It's dependent on what came before, for sure. So I'm giving it a little bit of leeway based on that. We're circling around the judgment here. So
I don't
we may as
even
well
remember
get
what I
into it.
voted last time, so I can't wait to look back.
I don't remember either, actually, for any
I
of
have a
us.
feeling we were all purgatory, maybe.
I think we were, or maybe somebody said heaven. Anyway.
Well, Prad
As
had a 9 on his list.
Yes.
That's true.
As Godzillavangelists, it is our holy duty to assign this movie or TV show its proper place in the Godzilla afterlife, heaven, purgatory, or hell. Here we go. Joanna.
Oh no,
Where
I
are
can't
you
go
putting
first.
it?
I'm still deciding.
Okay, all right.
Because now I'm trying to be was I too mean? I don't know.
I'll go. I think it's based on everything we've talked about, it's a purgatory show. You don't think about it much after you watched it, but when you watched it, it's fine. If purgatory, I would say closer to heaven than to hell.
I'm pretty much right there with you. I'm going to give it purgatory, but if somebody put it in heaven, I wouldn't be surprised. Because as I keep saying, and Joanna keeps making fun of me for, it's almost every element in it is good. Just the overall impression is not memorable. I don't regret my 10 hours watching this, considering I had to cram 5 of them in one day. I'm not annoyed or sick of it, and that's a good sign for a show if you can watch 5 episodes at a clip and not be completely burnt out on it. So if you watch it, you'll like it, but I have a feeling you're not going to watch it again. That's where I stand.
I'm either low purgatory or I want to be an asshole and put it in hell after the final viewing. Only because I feel like there was so much hype and money that went into it. So I'm giving it almost extra negative points beyond. I agree that it was like a totally hit the mark in a good amount of ways, in an okay amount of ways, had some strong acting that certain characters got to do. But Ryan, what happens at the end of the show? Do I have to like put anything that was in purgatory and actually make a decision? Like, do I get to punt it for right now? Will I one day have to officially decide?
I don't. I think we're going to keep our like final ranking episode to just the movies. So this is your time. We're not coming back to.
Oh my god!
I feel like it made you cry. It made you feel. You know?
Yeah, the last episode hit you hard. You can't put it in hell.
Yeah, that's
all right, you old softies.
You're the one who cried.
You freaking softies. All right, I'll put it in purgatory, but I have high hopes for season 2 with King Kong.
I would not
better
have
not
high hopes.
fuck it up. You what?
I would not have high hopes. I feel like shows like this don't do
But-
better in season 2 than season 1.
No, but you know why they have to? Because you know where they win with Kong is they give him more screen time and they give him like human emotions, which they hardly ever do to Godzilla. And I feel like that's how they will kind of redeem themselves, maybe.
Yeah.
It's true.
You're not
but
afraid
he's
to
gonna,
let Kong talk, so he can be a real character.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to fill Kurt Russell's big shoes. So with his big feet.
Luckily, King Kong's shoes are even bigger.
He really is going to have to do that. Well, I can't wait to have you back when that show comes out. So you're not our last guest because Ryan, we have to. We'll bring this whole thing back when new stuff comes out, right?
Yes, we've sort of talked about this, and we're gonna give our full details in the finale episode. But yeah, I don't imagine we're gonna be completely done after the finale.
I'd honestly feel really weird if a Godzilla thing came out and I wasn't whipping out the old garage band a little bit afterwards. I feel
I'm right
weird.
there with you.
Yeah, you what? I feel weird if I wasn't like at least a few times a year lightly stressed because I'm delayed in watching a Godzilla movie and I gotta get it done before we hit record.
Did you guys do Godzilla -1, by the way?
That's wonderful. We did. That was our last episode.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Have you?
Yeah, so good. Have it.
Yeah. Amazing. Yes, we'll all just put it in heaven again real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, heaven. When is the next King Kong movie coming out too?
There
Probably a few
actually
years.
isn't a confirmed next one, but there probably will be, considering the last one made a bunch of money again. In fact, the season 2 of this is the only confirmed Godzilla project right now, but there's definitely going to be another Japanese movie, another American movie,
Yeah.
another season of this, so there'll be
'Cause
more.
I think I loved Godzilla times Kong, right? Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah,
I think,
you had a great time with it. We all had a great time.
yeah, I think I watched it at 4 p.m, with a bunch of 5th graders. So
That's the way
fun.
to see it.
That was perfect. Okay, yeah.
I like how you called it Godzilla times Kong, by the way. That's a
What
really
is it?
funny way to say Godzilla X Kong.
Really?
Yeah.
Prad, how would you say it?
I'm thinking now. Is it like versus Kong? But it's not versus Kong. Like it's actually
No, because they're teaming up in this one. It's
Right,
Godzilla
right.
X Kong. Like it's a collab.
Is that what an X stands for? A collab?
I see that a lot now. Like when McDonald's does that stupid shit. It's like McDonald's X
I thought
McGunty or whatever.
I thought X still meant versus. I learned so much on this podcast.
They have in previous Godzilla movies, so I don't blame you for being confused.
Okay. No, saying Godzilla X Kong just feels psychotic.
I mean, we talked about in that episode how it kind of sounds like it's like a slash fiction where they're gonna have sex with each other.
Yeah, just in general, I feel like I'm like, nobody talks like that. Anyways, problem for another day.
Yeah, punt that one down the road.
Good job to all the actors who did a good job in the show. And for everyone who did an okay job, pick it up in season 2. Okay?
Pick it up. All right, so next episode, as we mentioned, is going to be the finale, but we still need letters and reviews, and I'm going to put this on social media very soon, but we want to have messages from you to read during the finale. So please get them in, email them. If you don't want to do that, we still love, just your regular YouTube comments and all that.
No, but we really love an email.
Yes.
Come on, Ryan, let's be honest. We love an email.
I mean, we're coming to the end here. If you want to be featured on the show, you got to send us a nice email.
We love a well-written email.
Or a review, like this one today. It's from Darth Ridiculous, titled, "Oh, you saints doing God's good work." Greetings, Godzillavangelists. This is Agent Rick C. of G-Force. I previously emailed. Now, though, distressing rumors demand a public forum. Whispers on the wind speak darkly of the podcast actually ending this year. Not a hiatus, an ending. Such a thing is both horrifying and unacceptable. Your noble, selfless work is not finished. I'm not making up any of this, by the way.
No, I love it.
Far from it. My fellow defenders of the earth. Below you will find an unordered listing of but some of the critical endeavors we still need from you. I need you. Especially Joanna. Godzilla needs you. Especially Ryan. He may have even spoken of someone getting blue lit, but I can't speak to that. And then here's the list. I'm going to go this real quickly. Because if Sam's even listening to this, he's going to have a heart attack.
Oh no, it's 30 films.
Yeah. No joke. Frankenstein Conquers the World, Mighty Peking Man, Star Wars Episode 1, Star Wars Episode 2, Star Wars Episode 3, the podcast applications of Sam, Joanna, and Todd G. Levin. I'm not mispronouncing it this time. That's how Rick wrote it as a joke. Hanna-Barbera's Godzilla animated series, Happily Ever After, a.k.a. Snow White, The Adventures Continues in the Philippines.
Hey, that's my movie!
Yes. Dante's Peak. More Ultraman episodes, Deep Blue Sea, the upcoming Gamera animated series, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the porno that may or may not have a Godzilla actor in it, more classic Gamera, a rewatch of key Godzilla films from across multiple eras.
No, not
with
Rodan.
Fiona.
Never.
With Fiona.
Oh, perfect.
They want Fiona in there.
Rick, don't give that to Fiona's ego. I'm kidding.
The Poseidon Adventure, Godzilla Video Games Part 2. A panel discussion concerning the best posture for Godzilla when he flies through the air. Godzilla vs. James Bond movie draft 2. Godzilla-themed costume ball. More fanfiction episodes. Atlantic Rim. An East Coast live show. Zillafoot. Clash of the Titans, Troll Hunter, The Mysterians, Colossal, Live Show World Tour, and every monster movie ever made, ever.
Looks like we're going another 20 years. Here's the thing I will say. Dante's Peak and Deep Blue Sea were in the background of my childhood growing up, so I fully agree with those. And
that's why they're in here, because you've mentioned them before.
The James Bond fanfiction episode was pretty fun.
And our other fanfiction episode.
Oh, our other fanfiction episode. And the James Bond. All right, well, we got options. Listen, they're going to keep making the movies. We know that. We're going to have Prad back as a guest, so...
Listen, if it were up to me, we'd do almost all of these. But unless I can convince Sam to quit his job, I don't think it's going to happen.
Maybe one day in our retirement.
Maybe one day. Yes. Sick. We'll look like Lee Shaw. We'll be sitting around the retirement home talking about it.
I hope I look like Lee Shaw when I'm old. Dude's looking great.
Me too.
Great flow.
And Rick closes up by saying, "Finally, I appreciate very much that my being a guinea pig doesn't seem to bother you," which is a very cute joke. Do you remember what he's talking about?
No. But we know I don't remember anything.
Yes. There is a Disney movie called G-Force where they're all like gerbils and hamsters.
Oh, that's a cute one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the list, because you know Ryan will be knocking on our doors to start working our way through it. Starting in 2025.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, yes. Speaking of the live show, which Rick seems to love, you're going to love it too if you haven't seen it. It's on our site. You can buy it real cheap.
Buy it. It's real weird and real fun.
Yes, it's an amazing time. I'd love to do an East Coast version. Somebody tell me if you're willing to give us $5,000 to do it, because we totally will. But we're going to need that amount of money to make it so we don't go broke. Prad, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Now you're stuck, though.
Thank
Now
you
you're
for
the
having
only
me.
Monarch guest. Yeah.
Yes,
Are
now
you-
you're the Monarch guest forever.
Yeah.
What a branding to have.
Do you have anything you want to plug or share with the audience?
Parting words of wisdom.
I'm just here for the good times. As long as Keiko's there, season 2, so am I.
Thank you, audience, so much for listening to us. It's a bittersweet moment coming to the finale here, but I'm so glad you're here to join us. Send in your messages. We love to see them, and we love you. Keep spreading the word of Godzilla.
Yeah. Until Kong is back again.
Bye.
Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. This episode was edited by Brogan Malloy. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. Special thanks to our families, friends, and the wonderful artists who made the movies we talked about today. Godzillavangelists is a satirical, critical work not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at godzillavangelists.com. We're also on Twitter at GodzillaCast and Instagram at GodzillaVangelists. If you prefer to listen to us online, we have a YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next time. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.